We appreciate you coming today to talk with us about the Reengage program. We have been working diligently since the money was allocated to us to share with you this June through legislation. And of course, it has a lot of different aspects to it from our other grants. So we've taken that into consideration. And I hope that we can answer some of your questions today. I am Stephanie Dolan. I'm working with Arcola here at AIC on implementing this program. So you can ask either of us any questions about the actual process as we start this spring and even beforehand. But I'm going to go ahead and share some information with you through a PowerPoint, a short one, as well as closing it out with an actual roster sheet in Excel that we have developed. I will stop at the end of the PowerPoint slides to allow for questions at that time that you may have, as well as we start going through the Excel worksheet, the roster, if you might have questions there. So I'm going to go ahead and start and share my screen. So for the Reengage Alabama grant program, we are starting it this spring. And if you recall, I just wanted to follow through with some information that was shared August 1st by Dr. Purcell. It is about encouraging adults to return to college who have not earned a degree. We do have certain limitations within those requirements. We were granted $4.5 million. I do want everyone to know that we did ask for an additional $1.5 million to help institutions implement this program, but unfortunately it was not allocated to us. So we do have the 4.5 for the students, and we have tried to make every effort we can to help you with resources that to make this process a little smoother. And we appreciate your efforts in it. So just to follow through with some of the recaps of eligibility, they do have to be an Alabama student, 25 years age or older. They have to have been out of college for 2 years prior to current enrollment. And I wanted to make sure there's a clarification on this. This does not mean that as of January, they had to be 2 years out of college prior to January 24. You could have, for example, have a student who started in your program that is part of your acknowledged SIPs in fall 2022. And prior to that enrollment, they had been out for 2 years. So that is also considered a 2-year stop out before the current enrollment. And then they would be the 25 and completed FAFSA, and this would be their first degree. So you may have some unique situations. Feel free to ask us about that as you start vetting for those students to participate. The students do have to have at least 2/3 of the degree earned. We took this into account to try to take all the variation of programs that we have across all the institutions, in that 60 degrees was accounted for an associate and 120 degrees was accounted for a baccalaureate. We understand that they might have more hours than that to earn the degree. And this is where the roster, we hope, can help you make planning more understandable as to how many hours they should take to make the most of earning their money or receiving the money. But they have to at least have 36 credit hours for an associate, 72 for baccalaureate. So for that very reason, it's strongly encouraged. And I really don't know how else you could do it without doing a degree audit for the student once they begin the program. But they have to be accepted into the approved program and have to be enrolled at least 6 hours or more per semester. We do ask that they are enrolled fall to spring, then spring to fall. They may enroll in the summer, but it will not count against them as a stop out if they choose just to go fall, spring, and fall, spring again. The whole object of this is to make sure students have a way to finish as soon as possible with some financial assistance. This is not last dollar. This is in addition to. So they have to be in good academic standing by your institution and have to be enrolled in one of those ACCCP list high demand jobs that we have linked to our SIPs that's offered at the institutions. Award amounts, we have a full-time student status of at least 12 hours. That's the maximum amount that we will pay toward. So keep in mind that means 120 hours cap overall and 12 hours cap per term, being $1,500 for associate and $3,000 for your bachelor's. Then between 6 and 11, if they decide to go part-time, they cannot go under 6 or they become ineligible. And we have that divided for you at the institution of 4-year level would be 250 per credit hour. And then we have that a student grant recipient who elects to transfer from an original awarding institution to another institution automatically becomes ineligible. It is not an award that's transferable. So once they start re-engage with your institution, they have to see it through so that you, as well as an institution, have credit for that degree, and that individual we know will get that degree as well. So how did it come about? Just to reflect again, we looked at the ACCC high demand jobs. This is the link. And again, the PDF will be shared on our website following today's session, so you can go back and review. When we looked at all of these jobs that were listed, we did look at those that require degrees. And then we took categories by opening weights and by salary weights, ranking them 1 to 4, combined those values to get 1 through 8. And the top section of the 15 jobs of the ACCC list were 7s and 8s. 6s and 5s, a lot of those were a little bit more variance, a larger group, and we only have 4.5 million. It can only go so far. So also we noticed that a lot of these jobs had multiple SIPs. So we felt hopefully this would work best for everyone. Here were the SIPs that we looked at as far as what our institutions offered in respect to those jobs. And then as a result, we had the 15 top occupation titles associated with the eligible SIPs offered at the institutions. To determine the funding, it was a little tricky, but we tried to be as fair as possible, looking at all the approved institutions, approved being that they are accredited by SAC-COC or COE, eligible to receive Title IV federal student aid program funds, and they maintain headquarters in Alabama. And then that they have 41 offered SIPs. That's what we took that information together. And through all of this, the results came to be that 26% to 74% split between associate and baccalaureate degrees were based on in-state graduates. We only looked at your number of graduates in state of Alabama in those particular SIPs to decide how much money would be allocated percentage-wise to each institution. And of course, the baccalaureate students receive a higher reward because of the greater enrollment cost as prescribed in the bill. So through all of the processes that Dr. Purcell had mentioned to you in the August 1st Zoom, we have now come to our authorized colleges and universities. There are 40. Authorized meaning that it is an approved institution that has filed a signed agreement with AIC indicating that they will comply with all the rules and procedures provided for this program. So as we look at the next slide, this is actually for the universities, and this is how we came about. In that it was a maximum student, each student is going to have a unique situation. So what we looked at is if they had 72 hours earned and they required 120 to graduate, we looked at that remaining 48 hours per credit hour if they were to go full-time, which gave us the percentage values to allocate to each of the institutions based off of your graduate number. And then, of course, your number of slots that would be able to assist. Your numbers may be much higher when you start working with the students, because it's very rare you're going to find someone that has that extreme amount left to do. You're going to have some that may have 10 hours, some may have 20. So there'll be just a broad spectrum. And this, of course, is the slide for the community college, which I spoke with them just previous to this session. So I shared this information with them as well. So to let you know where we are, we did have to submit administrative code, which it has 10 different areas, to our commissioners, and that goes through the Legislative Services Agencies process of acceptance. So I wanted you to know that we started September commission meeting where we presented this, and you'll see right here, this first link is actually for the LSA proposals. The second link is for re-engage. So we welcome you to go and look, because it is still in viewing for the proposed section. We sent that, and it was published on September 29th. No comments have been received so far, but at the December meeting, as long as there's nothing else to change, even if it was, we still present it to them. The proposed administrative procedure will be presented for final approval. Then they will be then submitted to LSA by December 19th. to be published by the 29th to go into effect for the spring term. So again, I encourage you to look at this if you want to know how the Reengage administrative code is. It might provide a little bit more guidance and detail. But I will say, even in addition to this, there may come a point where you may decide as an institution to develop some additional policies so that you can know how you want to apply this grant to the students in case, for the best case scenario, if you had so many more students than you had the money, that would be great. A great problem, but you would need to decide who gets what when, first come, first serve, but not necessarily in that way. So from this administrative procedure, we have developed a draft, and I emphasize draft, of what the actual application of the student would look like. It is very similar to ANGAP. We have a few things we want to tweak. The first time that you will have to have an application submitted to you, which this will have start with spring 2024. This is just a draft to give you an idea, will be due to the institution's February 15th. That is in the administrative procedures, and you'll see that there. When that deadline to give to you as an institution is done, it's from that point 30 business days that you have to give AIC the information that we need to make sure everything is accurate before we can validate and say that, yes, your institution will receive X amount of funding. And what we have been working on has been an institutional roster and an Excel spreadsheet. This is a little different because this grant is different. And after this PowerPoint, I will go through and give you an actual demonstration in Excel to see exactly how this runs. But I wanted to follow up to say that here on our webpage, where all of our other student grants are noted, eventually it will have Reengage posted here. We have it ready on the backside of our development stage, but we will roll it over when it's appropriate time. And as well as in our allinalabama.org. So these websites, would be a great resource for you to also direct your students if they needed more information. And as part of this presentation, I have my contact information as well as Ms. Arcola Petway, so that if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're kind of learning, just as you are, to see the ins and outs of how this is going to be best served for our students, as well as us as institutions and us at AIC to help you. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment. And just in that part alone, do you have any questions about how the money was to come about or anything before I actually get into the roster? Because that's where it's something different, and it may take a minute for you to digest. And you're all quiet. I see no one. So I will take that as you were just ready to go ahead to the next part. Okay. So I'm going to share now with you this Excel spreadsheet. I don't expect it to click at first. Hopefully it will, but it's something that's pretty detailed. And we hope you find to be useful, because these students really, truly need strong academic advising. They already do as a person of adult learning status. So one question was asked, these applications will only be paper application or will they be electronic? They will be fillable forms that we will have available, that you can also have available at your institution on site. What we're asking is that once the application is filled out, the student does have to sign it, but we will want the applications to be scanned and uploaded to our SFTP portal. So that's where we had provided the data previously back in September for potential students we had worked through and collected for you. We're going to try to do all of our correspondence this way so that everything will be actually electronic from this point, as well as including this roster. So as we start here with our overall funds, we are going to create a roster sheet just for you. And so that means we'll have 40, just how will the applications be distributed? If I missed the answer, oh, it's fine. Applications will be just like everything else. We'll have it on our website, the website of our grant page, as well as a link that you can use at your institution, or if you want to print out and have them fill it out, it's just in the end we will need a PDF scanned version of those applications. I hope I'm answering this correctly. Okay. So back to our Excel spreadsheet, we will have 40 unique institutional sheets, and we're going to keep your name. This is something really more for us than you. We know you remember who you are, so just to kind of ignore that a little bit. But we will have your initial allocation of funds here at the start, so that as you enter information each term, it will deduct and you will see how much you have remaining, because this does sunset as of December 2028. I'm going to skip student overview for the moment and go to spring. So I've entered a few examples here for you. Anything in green is what you will have to enter. And this will be information that you will collect from the student application as well as from their student audit, because you do need to know exactly how many hours they have earned so far, and so that we can calculate exactly how much we could cover with the reengage funding. So as you enter, we have new or returning each time. This is all manually entered. We will have your SIPs listed. So it will be specific to your SIP list. And the program name, of course, is different for every institution. So you will have to identify that program. But on the student application, hopefully they will be accurate in telling you already what it is as well. So we gave some examples here, supposedly 124, 128, 124 for these areas. Now, keep in mind, we cap it at 120 hours to be fair across the board, because even within the same SIP, some require extra hours than others. So we had to do some limit somehow, some way, and we found this to be the most fair. That student, as you read their audit, I'm going to look at Be Happy, and he has 76 hours earned. I'm going to delete this for a moment. So you'll see when it's not there, 124 is remaining because you have no hours earned, but 120 is what's eligible. So when you go back and 76 is entered, you'll see that although it's 48 hours to complete the degree, 44 hours is how much we actually can allocate reengage funding for. So then you will enter in green here, you will enter how many hours this student will actually enroll. This is my suggestion, because actually I worked with a program similar to this in Mississippi. I retired from Mississippi for 32 years, and I worked with this program. I think if you save this roster as a what if, and then also save this roster as a what is, so that as you're working with the student, your advisors maybe perhaps could also be looking at the what if. You know, there could be something that could make a difference. Should they take 12? Should they take 15? Maybe they should take 17, so we could actually get them graduated. That's the whole point of this grant, is to get the student graduated and also use the most of the money that we can for what they have available. But the what is what we would want at AIC, in order so we would know actually how much they're enrolling and what they're doing. But once that is put in, so let's just say if I said 9 hours, you'll see how it revolves over to part-time, but we're going to go back to 15. So when they're enrolled in 15, we are only paying up to 12 hours full-time. So they will have $3,000 that they could be eligible. This person, even though they have 30 hours, they've decided to go part-time. That means 10 hours, they get $2,500, and that's what is allowed for us to cover. Suppose that I say the number 3, you'll see 0, because they have to at least be enrolled in 6 hours. Are you saying that they lose eligibility if they've earned more than 120 hours? Good question. So in a sense, yes, but here's the situation. A student may have 124 hours, but we're only paying for 12 during a semester. So if they go full time, they might take 15, 16, so they could actually account for those additional 4 hours that we're not going to be able to pay for anyhow, but then still be eligible for some money during that term. We do, as looking at some of this, we have seen where there is a possibility. We're trying to see all the what ifs. There's a possibility that maybe at the very end of the semester, someone may be at a point where they're ready to graduate, but that last semester they would not have funding. And I may have an example. Yes. So here's an example of John Johnson as I went through each term. They have at this term of spring 2025, 116 hours, so 12 left to graduate. So they're going to enroll in 12, but we capped at 120. So that means we can only pay for 4, which is under, so we don't have any funding. We have discussed this, and we just really need to see how this first semester rolls out into maybe even the summer, that if there was any memo that we maybe could add and make certain adjustments pending case by case. We're not sure, but we have realized this, but in all, we can't just say until you finish totally, because it is only 4.5 million and we couldn't allocate the funds to be more, at least allowed. It is to be something in addition to, not totally only money, I guess, if that makes sense. So hopefully they would have other funding, but if they didn't, this at least be something that otherwise they would not have had to help them through. All right, so going back to Be Happy, in the spring, he came in new. In the summer, he returned. We had someone new in the summer. And then in the fall, Be Happy came again. Notice as I enter this information, this number right here, program hours earned, is something that you'll have to keep up with from semester to semester to see how much they are and enter how much they've earned. But it continues to show what we can cover. And once this person graduates, we do have one tab that we ask where degrees awarded. You put the term it's awarded, how much money they were given, and what program they were actually in. You may have someone to stop out. If a person stops out, they lose their eligibility. Now, in all within reason, they could stay out for 2 years and come back again, but by that time, you may not have enough funding to even help them. We are asking for additional funding, but we do not know if we'll get it. We just know right now we have 4.5 that we have to share with everyone. But if the person does stop out, we ask that you put the term that they did not return, and at that point, how many hours they had earned and how much money they had received, so that you could see potentially this money might still be left back in your original sheet of overall funds to give to someone else. Because each term, as your money is awarded, it will deduct and you will see what's left. Now, in the student overview tab, this is where when they first enter their information, how much they first had left to earn a degree, this is at most what we could potentially give that student. But not exactly, because again, you have your capping of 12 hours, part-time, and different moving parts. But as you award money, you can keep a running tab here per student. The overall funds is per overall, but the student, this is here to help you as well. I'm trying to make sure there's not a chat that I'm overlooking. So I will stop sharing for just a moment and I'll go back if I need to, but in case someone had a question so I can see everything. Does anyone have a question? We had to make... Okay, I'm sorry.
So sorry. I may have missed this and I apologize. Technically, what is the time frame? Is it just simply we have the funds until they run out, or do we need, is it like a five-year deal? I'm so sorry again if I've missed this information.
No, that's fine. And I probably didn't answer it clearly either if I did say anything. So right now, the money we've been told it sunsets December 2028. So as you look at this, the front end, the more people you get in at the front end, the quicker you can make sure you have enough to carry someone through. because you could very well have someone who has 40 hours remaining, or well, trying to make sure, yeah, out of the 48, they might have 40 hours. You didn't find someone else, but you have this one person who's really serious, they could use it and benefit. So you want to try to catch them as early as possible to see them through. Once the money is spent, it's spent for your part. Now, I will say, we are keeping tabs on this, because if you run into issues and the money and the people aren't there, the money isn't spent, it may be that some other institution could benefit from some funds, that you weren't able to use. So there are a lot of different pieces that we'll be looking at it. We encourage everyone to try to spend as much as they can as early on. I know the timing is difficult being in the spring, identifying students. I'm anticipating the largest group to probably show in the fall, once people start to learn about it and know. But you do have, we're so specific with the SIPs. And I wondered, have most of you been able to find students? And I'm wondering if you didn't think about the enrollment period had to be 2 years from January. Does that open the door a little bit more for you, that it can actually be 2 years, but they started last year? Did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I'm trying to read. Okay, I see a question. Do we have to wait until AIC approves the student application before we disperse, or we just won't get reimbursed for the disbursement until AIC approves? Well, the student application is kind of like ANGAP. The student application is due to you February 15th. Then when you have 30 days to get us that information. And then once our COLA verifies, looks through all the information, looks good, and we don't have any question, the check will then be cut toward the end of the semester. So our COLA, I think you're in here if you have another way, maybe she's asking, or he, I'm not sure who this may be.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how it will operate, similar to NGAP. So that means that we'll probably have to send a waiver memo asking institutions, or letting them know that the payment will be sent at the end of the semester.
So this will operate more like ANGAP than like ASAP. So we're not dispersing ahead of time and then getting the money later. We're dispersing at the end of the term when we get the money. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we have the 4.5, but yet remember, we still just get it in quarters as well. So you mentioned that students could have started in fall 2022, but still qualify if they've been previously out 2 years. Is that only for students who? No, I mean, it can be recent terms. There's not, it's just that when they started, if you have, let's say Stephanie enrolled just even last spring, or, of this year, and I meet all the other qualifications, and I had just enrolled in spring, but I had been out for 2 years, and I'm in one of your SIPs, then yes, I qualify. So you may have some students right there already who may benefit from this to help them as an extra, added award to see them through. And to me, that would even be greater, because they're already vetted and trying to finish. So, how much greater of an incentive it would be, I would think. So what we would do, these forms would be in the SFTP folder for your institution. And I know that we will send out an email to say probably how to name the information. So like if this would be re-engage roster spring 2024. So when you return it, we know, it'll be dated, but we want to make sure there's clarity as to which term you have in there for us to review. But we want to see the entire form. That's why I suggest the what if and the what is. The what if may have more information that you could actually plan out the student until they finish their degree. I think if a student sees that, that's a great incentive for them to stay in as well. So we are tweaking the application still a little bit. Any input is appreciated. You can see that on the PDF that will be posted. The Excel spreadsheet, if you might have some suggestions, we're open to hearing that as well. We may, I don't know, it was asked of the community colleges if they could see one of these examples just to try to get a better understanding. We may offer that just to say this is just an example. But when the actual roster is distributed, it will be specific to your institution, according to SIPs and funding allocations. Is there any chance that if an institution is unable to fully spend all funds each term, they would be penalized by having their amount allotted reduced? It has been stated to me, and I hate to say penalized, but we want to spend the money. So if for some reason you can't spend it, there could be someone else who has people waiting that we could reallocate the funds for. That is a possibility. But we're not trying to look for that. But that's, it's just at the very end, of course, toward the very end, within the next year or two, before 2028, we would hope we have all the money spent. At your institution is what we hope. And if you have any student situation that you are trying to determine how it might be best to work through the process of the roster, feel free to ask. We're more than happy to work with you. If you need some training just within your own people at your institution, we'll be glad to do that as well. The more we communicate and talk about this, the better understanding I think we all can have. It's new to all of us. A lot of moving parts, as I said earlier. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, if not, this recording will be posted as well as the PDF, and more information will be shared soon. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. Okay, so are you planning to have a follow-up webinar in spring after we've gone through one term of awarding? Yes, because I think we'll all need it, us as much as you, to make sure we're all on the same page. Yes. And we will be presenting at the financial aid conference that's coming November 3rd. If any of you are there, we will also be there so we can talk. And you'll get to see some of this same information as well. I appreciate everyone, and we look forward to working with you on this to help our students and up those graduate numbers. Hope you have a good rest of the day.